Hi folks, Gamerbug here again, and this is going to be part 2 of my series exploring professions. What if? What if they weren't how they are now, but how I would envision them? So my last one looked at how would I envision the beggar and peasant. Biggest change to the beggar were less skills, more of a tutorial class, and less skill points to get through it, so less of a grind. Also taking away skills I didn't believe they should have. And the peasant was literally the next level up, a little bit more grindy, and it was that sort of make your way through this class, some good skills in there, but it's not, you know, the next level is going to be the good stuff. So we're going to start talking about the good stuff. And in this video we're going to talk about the militia, which I would change to a squire, and then the knight, which I would keep the same. So why the militia? Why would I change it to a squire? Well, there's militia in the game already, but there aren't any squires in the game already, so that straight away makes your character feel a little bit more unique. And you can't become a member of the militia, so removing that sort of thing, make the militia their own thing, just keep them as something in the as an NPC, so to speak. Also, well, squires make more sense around knights, a squire becoming a knight, because squires were actually sort of servants or attendants to knights. They would get their horses ready and their armour and all sorts of stuff. So it makes sense for a squire to become a knight. And I just like the idea of it, if I'm perfectly honest. So that's why I've chosen it. So what would be different from a squire and a militia? Well, skill-wise they'd be similar, but not necessarily the same. Now, the militia as it is, it gets a bunch of armour available to them, few weapons, I think a recipe or two for food, and bandages. And majority of that I would actually keep the same if I was going to turn them into a squire. They also get the special ability kick, which I demonstrated doesn't actually work on NPCs. Might work against players, but does not work against NPCs. And the thing with class skills is I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have one or couldn't have one, but what I think this class skill should be for the squire is repairing armour. Specifically, repair metal armour. And that might seem weird, because obviously there's the smith, but the smith doesn't exist in my envisionment and is being removed because, again, blacksmith, there's NPC blacksmiths, and I want to make the smith this sort of not all-powerful class, which sounds weird if I'm giving some of its abilities to the squire. It's going to sound even weirder when I go on about the knight later, but there's reasoning behind my madness. Anyway, I would like their sort of class skill or area of expertise in repairing armour. And they're going to be able to make decent armour, but they will not make the best armour because they're a tier down from the top tier class. And they'll be able to make some weapons, but again, not brilliant weapons. They're a tier down from the top class. So what skills would I actually have these guys having? Well, they would keep, if you remember, the beggar goes to peasant, and the peasant keeps all of the beggar skills. Well, actually, in my envisionment, this is a progression. You don't suicide, you actually become the next class. So your character actually becomes the next thing, which means the squire would keep all of the peasant skills, as well as all of the beggar skills. So he's got enough skills to make some food, and make some clothes, and things like that. He will also be able to farm. My envisionment here is you would be able, if we keep the class skills the way they are, you would be able to switch skills. So basically you go class skills and you'd have 3 available to you: beg, farm, and I guess repair. And you can slot which one you want to do at that time. Now, the squire would only be able to repair metal weapons when it is next to, or when he is next to an anvil. If he's not next to an anvil, then you can't do it. there will be more to that coming later. So, the Squire at an anvil can repair armour. How would the repair work? Again, I want to go into that a little bit later. Let's go into the other skills that they'd have. Well, the Squire's already got basic tools, and on top of that, I would like them to have the ability to make an iron pickaxe. But that's it. Now, why just an iron pickaxe? Well, that's their forte is going to be metal weapons and armour. Well, this branch of the professions. So, by being able to mine iron and silver and gold would make sense. On top of that, they'll also have the ability to make an iron ingot, and then they would be able to make their weapons. So, making weapons. Well, they'd be able to make an iron sword, or whatever it's called. You could re-categorize weapons. I kind of do that with a knight in a bit, but we'll go on to that. So, a basic iron sword they can make. You could make it as a peasant normally in the game, but you're going to be able to make this as a squire. They can make some sort of iron warhammer. They can make the light version of the lance. I've called them a light lance rather than a wooden lance, because all lances actually are wooden. It's just the tip, sort of the end, that's different. But I'm going to say a light lance they can make. They can still make the polearm, and they can make an iron buckler. That's the only shield that would be able to be made by this branch, and it's the weakest shield, so to speak, because it's the smallest. But it's iron, so they can make it and repair it. So that'd be it for weapons. It's not a lot, but they're good, strong weapons. On top of that, you'd be able to make armour. You'd be able to make the kettle helmet still. I think the sallet, which is obviously a helmet for those of you who don't know. A mail coif, not in the game at the minute, but I think it should be. Still the mail tabard that they have at the moment. Mail leggings, mail gloves, and of course mail be able to make chainmail. So they can then make all of the metal, like sort of low tier metal armor. So yeah, they can repair armor, but they can't make the best armor. But they can make good armor, and it would make it a class that's worth sort of going through slowly, getting that cool armor, enjoying it, sort of powering up, and having fun with. And that's what it should be. It is a man-at-arms class. This is a martial class. This is a fighting class. So naturally, they're good at that. I also think there are abilities that should come sort of naturally. I think that there should be movement penalties, not necessarily in combat, but running speed penalties if you wear armour and you are not a squire or a knight. So let's say that if you're a peasant and you put on a set of full chain armour, your movement speeds drop by 10%. But if you're a squire and put it on, it's dropped by 5%. And everyone who puts metal armour should have a percentage drop. But if you were the next level up, a knight, it would drop by, say, 2.5%. So being a knight or a squire is a considerable choice, but they get the best armour, but they get better, less movement penalties as well. I think they should have bonuses to damage with, say, one-handed swords. And maybe they could have something like some sort of benefit to having shields as well. And these are probably things you could unlock. They used to have similar things before in the class. I think they should come back. So that's the Squire. Nice, simple class. So how does this repairing work? Well, as I say, if they're at an anvil, they should be able to repair as per the current skill, which means you can pay cash and repair the item. And I believe that every time you repair the item, it should drop its quality level by 1 tier. So if a squire repairs a chainmail tabard, and it was rare, it will become uncommon. If he repairs one that is uncommon, it will become common, it will become rare, and the last time it will break. He cannot repair it, and it shatters once it's hit its limit. But I also think, because that seems limited, that people keep talking about, and I agree, there should be repair kits, and these should be able to be given to other classes. And I think that the Squire should be able to make armour repair kits. What they are, maybe a smithing hammer. It doesn't matter what they are in a sense. And these have one use, as in one go and they are gone. And you can repair, if you're a smith, if you're a squire, you can repair in the field using one of these. But doing so immediately drops it by 2 levels of quality. So if it's uncommon, it becomes awful immediately. If it's rare, it becomes common. And if it's common, it can't be repaired in the field. Now, you could do this a lot of different ways. This is just off the top of my head. If any other class uses this, they will immediately just end up at awful. So they will drop straight away from whatever quality to awful quality. Or, alternately, they just drop 2 whole rungs and that's it. So you'll only be able to repair once using this kit. You could also argue that maybe if they're a smith, they can only ever repair with this kit at an anvil. You know, it adds more, but they can still use these kits, and that's the point. They get one chance to repair their armour, so they get double the amount of ability from an armour. And they can hand them out. Each hammer has to be carried around with you, like I said, as one go, and that's it. It's gone. And you can carry X amount of them, and they'll probably weigh a fair bit. Maybe each one weighs 5. So, you're not going to want to carry tons of these around because they're going to weigh too much. So you probably need to carry 1, maybe 2. So that's how I would envision this repair skill working. So let's look at the next class. You finish Squire, you can repair armour, you're pretty cool, you're good in a fight. What's so good about a knight? Well, it should come as no surprise that the knight is the complement to the Squire. They can repair weapons, metal weapons specifically. And this, yes, makes them something like the smith once they get to this, because they will have all of the Squire skills, all of the peasant skills, all of the beggar skills. They will never have the lateral classes skills, ever. But that does make them like the smith. But they will have the same limitations of the repair skill must be used at an anvil, it will slowly over time degrade your equipment, and you'll be able to make another repair kit, a separate repair kit for repairing weapons. That means they must carry 2 repair kits on them, or any other character if you give them to another character, to repair a metal weapon and some metal armour. And each repair kit will only repair 1 item. So straight away we have limitations here. So if you want to repair your helmet and your chest piece and your arm pieces and your leg pieces, you're going to need 4 repair kits and your weapon 5. And if each one weighs 5, that's 25. That's a lot of weight you're carrying, including your armour and everything else. So, there are limitations. You're better off going back and repairing it in an anvil. Other characters haven't got that, that beauty. I think other characters will probably only have a piece or 2 of metal armour and maybe a metal weapon. So yeah, also these guys can make the best armour and make the best weapons, so to speak. I still think there should be limitations, and certain weapons and that should only be found by going out there and killing bandits and finding chests and really putting yourself on the line to find the cool stuff. So I think that they should be able to basically make an arming sword, which is a 1-handed sword if you didn't know, a long sword, which is a 2-handed sword. Which should be stronger than the 1-handed, but not hugely stronger. Maybe allow them to make a great sword. People may have known them as things like Zweihanders, which is basically a ridiculously sized huge sword. It's the kind of weapon you normally would go into, have a few swings, and then you might chuck down so you can pull your smaller sword once you're getting closer. And this thing should probably do a lot of damage, but I think they all should do have a damage nerf anyway. But it will maybe take... You can do 2 swings and your stamina can't be used again until you've, so you'll only be able to do 2 swings every 30 seconds or something like that. You'll be able to block maybe with it, but that's it. And because it's ridiculously powerful. I think maybe a warhammer for them, maybe a 2-handed hammer of some sort, whether it's 2-handed or a great hammer like the great sword, and the heavy lance, so a lance that's iron on the end and does more damage. I think they should be able to make all the armour that the smith currently can, and also the tabard armour and crested helm that the knight can at the moment. And they should probably just be the same stats as the normal plate armour, just it's a cosmetic difference. They should be able to craft silver ingots, gold ingots, and obviously they can craft iron from being a squire, and then they can make these repair kits. Now the thing about it is some of the armour I think at the minute requires leather, and that's going to be a remit of a different character, but maybe they can craft leather, probably fair, just so that you don't have to dick around with recipes so much. But getting hold of leather, the only way they'll be able to do that properly is by killing animals. So yeah, maybe something along those lines. Maybe they can only craft certain levels of leather, I don't know. But yeah, you might need to give them that if you don't want to change the recipes too much. But obviously they'll be able to do cloth from being a peasant anyway. So the knight would have, like I say, all the abilities from a squire, farming skill from a peasant, the beg skill from a beggar, and would be able to, I think they should have bonuses to maybe two-handed sword damage, maybe bonuses to lance damage, and maybe, like I say, they wouldn't get as many armour weight penalties. Yeah, they'd have the best abilities, they're trained to use this armour, so there would still be a slight penalty, because I still think there should be, because it's so heavy to a degree, but nothing drastic. So maybe, like I say, they get a 2% reduction in their run speed, whereas other characters get 10%, and like I say, the squire maybe gets a 5% reduction. Just to say, this weighs a lot more. You know, this is a problem. And maybe even like if you're not a knight or a squire, you get your stamina, max stamina drops just by like 10 or something like that. You know, to denote these are trained to use this armour specifically. And I think other classes should have specific bonuses to weapons. Whether they make sense is not the point. I don't think you should be stopped from using or wearing anything, but certain classes are better at it. That's what I'm saying. And so the squire and the knight are the best hand-to-hand, toe-to-toe combatants. But there are their natural, like I said, rock, paper, scissor enemies. And we'll go into those in another video. So this is my thought for the knight. You know, yes, they are the smiths kind of still exist within these, and you could say that I'm making that, you know, I've just added that into these two. I have in a way, but I've added limitations, and it makes a lot of sense to go into this. And the smith class just never felt right with me. This somehow feels better. Weird enough, it's probably not a class I'd want to use myself, but people will. And these are those hand-to-hand men-at-arms tanks that will, you know, decimate others once they get toe-to-toe with you. But other classes will have benefits elsewhere that will offset that. So, do you agree? Do you think it's a silly idea? Possibly. Do you think it's a good idea? Maybe. Is it ever going to happen? Doubt it. That doesn't mean that, you know, I can't put my thoughts forward. And I really think that this would probably be a sort of smoother and better way of doing this. So give me your thoughts if you want to in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching. And I will be doing another video on the next couple of classes in the until then, thank you for watching. And as always, Gamerbug out.